Welcome everybody to Too Legit to Crit, a tabletop role-playing podcast hosted by two guys who can't help but giggle every time they hear the spell Flesh to Stone.
It makes them rock hard.
It's a penis.
Oh, it's funny because it's...
Yeah, we are children. We
really are. We have not aged past about 12 or
Jesus
13,
Christ now.
mentally.
And
but that's fine.
I'm a 40-year-old, 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But I make no apologies for it. Fuck them.
No, yeah. Absolutely.
My name is John Santana.
I am still Justin.
And how are you, Justin?
I'm good, man. I had a really nice week off from work for the birthday thing.
You're a year older.
I am.
You're a year wiser.
Am I?
I don't know. I'm asking. Do you feel a year wiser?
No.
You sure? You're sounding pretty wise to me, like a wizened old man.
Do you reckon that's where the term wizard comes from? Because they're very wise people. They're wizened people.
I'm guessing as much. Yeah,
it's probably like there's a similar root there or something, right?
100%.
But yeah, no, like I went to the zoo as well on Saturday. That was pretty good.
Oh, nice. Did you take the little one?
Yeah, it took the small. It was like her first time going properly. Like now that like she's been before, but she was so young that she doesn't really she wasn't able to really enjoy it. She was still like a proper baby. So this was her first time going. Like now that she's old enough to actually like enjoy it and remember it and stuff. So it was really cool seeing like her get all excited seeing all the animals.
That's amazing. Nice. I'm really glad you had a good time. And have you done it?
What about yourself?
I was going to say, have you done anything in the role play sphere this week, or did you just enjoy your birthday?
Just enjoyed my birthday. I did have a couple of people around on the Wednesday for some boardy games, but by the time everyone it got organized and people got here, it was like quite late already. So we only got 2 games in, but it was still really enjoyable. We played a little bit of Muffin Time, and I finally got to play Disney Munchkin, which I've owned the game for a year and not had a chance to play it. So I'm very happy that I finally got to play it.
Fantastic. Well, I haven't really been up to much. I'm getting the Kingmaker campaign ready. Out of the 4 slots, 3 are taken. So if you're in the area and you're interested in playing a classic Pathfinder's adventure path, updated to 2nd edition, then yeah, by all means get onto Gamers Nexus and book a ticket. So I've been preparing that. My homebrew campaign, the current arc they were in, where they were in this town that almost seemed too good to be true, and they discovered that there was some good old-fashioned Yog-Sothothery going on.
Lovely.
That kind of all came to a big climax where they essentially murdered a town.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, they deemed the town as basically lost. The fact that
sunk cost.
The fact that the entire town was involved in some shady sacrificial practices, and their response was "fuck 'em." So I tried out a new mechanic, which was very fun.
What was the new mechanic?
So essentially, to kind of go against a whole town, I made the combatants quite potent in terms of attack, but they had
super squishy.
Fuck all AC, fuck all hit points. So they were dropping down in one hit, some of them.
Yeah.
So they, the players had so much fun. I actually had to invent new townspeople and just start bringing another wave. It's and all of a sudden out the houses, more of them come.
The tavern clears out, and it's just
So they also faced off against a manifestation of Yog-Sothoth, which it was on a head-to-head would have been an unwinnable battle, but there was a way to win. And I'm not really going to go into what that was because, it may be uncomfortable for some of our listeners, but it wasn't. They had to basically make a moral decision.
Right.
And they did, but not without getting battered left and right. So all of this was, all of this kind of happened. And it was all a very morally grey area, everything about it.
Yeah.
So the decisions they had to make to defeat Yog-Sothoth, the decision to go and punish the town when they could have opted to use non-lethal force, all of that was kind of set in place for them to question the status quo of their alignment, which basically I've used as a springboard to remove alignment from my game.
Nice.
So it was a case of, this has happened, you have made these decisions which are questionable, so now
to say the least,
alignment is no longer a thing. We're kind of getting ready for the remaster, which is coming out in November. Cool. So it kind of worked out. It kind of worked out pretty well. I don't know how the removal of alignment is going to land, especially to the cleric. But I have assured him that there is a way to convert everything he's able to do. And in the fringe sort of circumstances where it's a bit up for debate, I'm always going to kind of lean in favor of the player. So,
yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, that sounds good though, man. And it's nice to be able to kind of springboard your current campaign into the remaster as well, rather than having to go, well, that's the end of that. Let's start again.
Yeah, that's it. And, I'm really excited for the remaster. And the thing that I was most excited for is getting rid of that fucking stupid mechanic.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing that I think you and me definitely agree on, is that alignment charts and alignment just in general it's a silly mechanic from way back when that used to have a place but no longer does.
Yeah, it's become more than irrelevant, and I'm surprised it's lasted this long, because in like Pathfinder First Edition, D&D 5e, it has a mechanical relevance, but it is very limited. It's like, okay, so it's relevant for certain classes.
I think I'm both surprised and not at the same time, because it's one of those that it has so little effect that the only people that are going to care about whether, like, if it was removed during a playtest, for example, right? The only people who are going to kick up a fuss are the people who play that particular class. And the players who don't play that class aren't going to care either way because it doesn't affect them.
No.
You see what I mean? So in a way, I can kind of see why they wouldn't get rid of it, because it doesn't really affect 80% of the people playing the game, probably even more than that. And the 20% that it does affect are going to want to keep it. So they just kept it. But at the same time, I've played some of those classes that rely on alignment in air quotes, and I've never really even considered it even then, because even something like an Oathbreaker Paladin from 5e, right? They're meant to be an evil alignment like class, but I don't see it that way, because all it means is they had an oath that they've broken. So if they used to be like an Oath of Vengeance Paladin, right? So they were set out to get vengeance for something, and they had an opportunity to take that vengeance, and they didn't. They've then broken their oath. That doesn't mean they're evil. It just meant that they prioritized something else in that moment. They've still broken their oath.
It was a way of kind of pigeonholing character concepts, which can't really be pigeonholed.
Exactly.
It's created this absolute concept of good and evil and law and chaos.
Yeah.
When nobody truly is one of those things or the other. No. So I'm glad to see the back of it, to be honest.
Yeah. No, same.
So speaking of the remaster.
Yes. Nice, lovely, good segue.
Thank you.
Almost like we actually planned that one. It's crazy, that.
I don't know what you're talking about. That was off the cuff, man. that was improv. So Paizo released on their blog some of the sort of preview of the changes that are coming to, they call it the wizard class, but a lot of it is more to do with spell casting in general. But, you know, I think you said before we went on air that it probably affects the wizard more than anyone.
Yeah, because I mean, like, spellcasting is kind of their whole shtick, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so, and they deal a lot more with sort of schools of magic, etc., more than any other class. So, yeah, one of the changes that's going to happen is that they are actually removing the schools, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
So you're no longer going to get sort of abjuration, conjuration, etc.
Yes, I remember you mentioning that once before.
Yeah, so they kind of remove.
They're putting them more into like actual
schools. So, for example, the School of Battle Magic, or the School of Civic Wizardry, and the School of Mentalism. So you will have schools, but they will actually be in-world locations where you have studied a type of spellcasting, as opposed to
just like some, you know, abstract. Oh, this is a conjuration spell because I'm creating something.
Yeah. So So exactly, and where you've always kind of had overlap, where there've been conjuration spells that do damage.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. It's kind of, again, it's one of these things that has persisted.
A relic from the past that could probably be do with being replaced, which is exactly what they're doing.
Or reviewed. I won't say, I think reviewed is probably the best way to...
Better choice of words,
to kind of focus it. So...
did I see as well that they're also removing spell components?
They are indeed.
I like that.
Spell components, I think I've only ever used them if it has been significant.
Yeah, I think as well, like, because there's, even in 5e, right, there's so many ways to get around a spell component unless it's got, like, a significant gold cost. Like, if you just give your character an arcane focus, right, in 5e anyway, you can cast anything that uses components without having the components unless it's got, like, a really high gold cost or gets consumed by the spell.
Yeah.
So, like, at that point, anybody who's building a character is just going to build them with an arcane focus because you don't have to then track, oh, wait, do I have that component? Like, you don't have to worry about it. You just cast a spell. So it's kind of gotten to a point where I don't know a single GM who's ever tracked spell components, if I'm honest.
No, I never have. And someone once said, and I think it might have been on Facebook or something like that, someone once said that originally the spell components in AD&D were meant as a joke. And if you actually look, I'm just going to bring up Pathfinder 1st edition. Some of the spell components, I think, for example, message is a piece of string.
Yeah.
As in, like, the two cans and a piece of string sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the way the components were designed as this sort of tongue-in-cheek nod to what the spell would be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, no one I've ever played with has tracked them, and I certainly haven't.
No, I mean, it's also one of those things as well where a lot of GMs would just hand wave, oh, you probably bought all that last time you were in town. Especially considering they don't get consumed, right? Like 99% of spells don't consume the components. So yeah, it's always just been a bit. I don't even track it in 5e.
They slightly brought the relevance back in 2nd edition because spells with the manipulate trait they incur reactions. So attacks of opportunity. However, not every spell does that. So, for example, all the spells with the somatic component and spells with the material component, they all incur attacks of opportunity, for example. So what they've done is, rather than saying that for the spells, they have just quite simply put manipulate as part of the traits. So rather than saying, oh, this incurs an attack of opportunity because it's a somatic component, it just goes, no, this incurs. This specific spell incurs an attack of opportunity whilst this other one doesn't. So that they've simplified that quite a bit, because a lot of times when my players are like casting spells, it's okay, so what components does it have? Okay, so it incurs and it just delays shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, spellcasting delays stuff anyway, because you've got to like make sure you've read the spell description properly and all that sort of thing, right? I mean, how many times have we been sitting in combat, especially as someone like myself who tends to play more bonky bonk characters?
Bonky bonk.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm a bonk you in the face 50 times and then that's my turn, right? And then, so it'll get to my turn. I'll bonk you with all the attacks I have that round. And then I sit around waiting for the spellcasters to read their spells.
How are you saying
especially if you then...
How are you saying bonk so many times without us making it sexual?
I don't know. Maybe we did get wiser.
No, we didn't.
Or we were just waiting. You do end up sitting there just waiting for the spellcasters to take their turns. And it your turn in combat takes all of a few seconds, and then you're sitting around for 20 minutes waiting for your next turn. And then if you then add in does this provoke? Oh, it does. Okay, well, all of these are now going to swing at you because you've incurred an opportunity attack because of this component. And it just adds so many more levels that are just going to delay that even further. So anything that streamlines spellcasting is good in my books. Yeah,
I mean, Pathfinder 2nd Edition is a streamlined system from the get-go, and this remaster just seems to be
cutting out doubling, the little bit of fat that's left.
Doubling down on it. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited for the wizard. I've never played a wizard. Never.
Have you not?
No.
I have played a wizard once. It was in 5e. I don't, like I said, I don't really tend to play spellcasters very often. I tend to go down the more martial route. Because let's be honest, there's nothing quite like somebody talking shit in the tavern and then you just hit them with a huge fucking axe. There's nothing better. But yeah, so I'm trying to expand myself, which is why I've got the warlock that I'm planning to play and stuff like that. To kind of branch out a little bit and try some new stuff next time I play.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played a prepared spellcaster. I've either played bards or I think sorcerers. I think I'd played one sorcerer.
Yeah.
But I've never played anything prepared because I couldn't be fucked with the bookkeeping.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of bookkeeping. There is, yeah.
I'll have to try play one at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to play one properly at some point. Go really in depth with it, but I just need to find a nice long campaign to do that in. Where we don't already have 18 spellcasters. Well,
I do have a concept for a wizard that I kind of had planned to jump in as a sort of glorified NPC in a friend's game.
Mm-hmm.
That still may happen, I don't know, but I've got a cool concept for a wizard, so that's going to probably be my first iteration.
And I'm guessing you're going to hold out on us and not tell us about it until you've fully built it, right?
Yeah, there's no way I'm telling anybody. I think it's one of the funniest character concepts I've come up with.
Really? As funny as the bard who's based on the Bogans in my campaign?
Funnier.
I mean, okay.
Funnier than that.
I'll have to reserve judgment. Yeah. But speaking of the Bogans...
That was good. That was
right?
That was impressive.
That was top tier. So there is a new sci-fi RPG that's been inspired by Hitchhiker's Guide and a Red Dwarf. Now, I'm a big fan of Hitchhikers.
I'm a big fan of Red Dwarf.
So basically, everything's done with a D20 and a D6. It's all you need for everything. So it's nice and simple. And it aims to offer the game, I should probably tell you the name of the game. That would probably be a good, if I was a professional, that's where I would start. So designer Stephen Hans has created a game called Space Aces, Voyages in Infinite Space. And it aims to offer a breezy approach to galactic exploration with a minimal no prep. Minimal to no prep even. I can't speak today. So basically, you can jump straight in, and it's like an open source space exploration system. So you can make it fit any kind of world from like Futurama, Star Trek, Spaceballs even. Like if it happened in space, you can do it in this system. And I'm all for it.
I'm adding it to my cart as we speak.
I mean, so some of the aliens that you can encounter: space otter bandits, aristocrab spice merchants. So it's rules light RPG, which is it's our favorite. Let's be honest, because it means that you can have a lot more flexibility with things. And yeah, it just looks really, really cool, and I love the way it works. So you explore around a galaxy. It's kind of got a bit of a board gamey feel to it because the galaxy is made up of over 60 hex tiles that come together to form systems, right? So you can lay these hex tiles out and you can rearrange a system and have a different galaxy every time, which in itself is pretty cool. You might not like that part, but I do. And yeah, it just means that you're going to, all of those space shows that we grew up watching and loving, and even like shows like The Orville. I don't know if you've seen that.
I love The Orville.
So did I. I absolutely loved it. But even like that, right? Because I mean, that whole show started as like an homage to Star Trek, right?
And it actually ended up becoming a better really Star Trek than Star Trek. It's kind of
it was so good, dude.
It's kind of like Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest is actually rated as one of the better Star Trek films, and it's not even fucking Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah, exactly.
It's the same sort of thing.
It really is, and this is kind of like the Star Trek RPG that never actually was Star Trek, if that makes sense. Because you could actually build like an entire Star Trek style campaign of exploration and visiting these, unvisited worlds and exploring unknown space in this RPG system, but it doesn't have to be limited to what already exists in the Star Trek universe. You could create your own races and bring in some of these other races that already exist and stuff like that. It's quite open source, and I quite like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be investing in this. I think you had me when you said Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I mean that was literally the title, but okay.
I know. Don't get me wrong. I do like Hitchhiker's Guide. I haven't actually read the book yet, which is a massive injustice. But I intend to. But yeah, Red Dwarf.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I did like watching Red Dwarf as well, but for me, Hitchhikers was.
I grew up with Red Dwarf. Something. I was watching Red Dwarf when I was a bit too young to be watching Red Dwarf, because my brothers used to watch it, and I just found it amazing. Just sat there with them,
yeah.
Smeghead became part of my lexicon at a very early age.
Yeah. It's a good insult as well, because like it's an insult that doesn't sound like an insult.
It's great. Yeah, I'm definitely. I've got it in my cart. I'm not paying for it just yet, but it's gonna get got.
Yeah, it looks really good. But yeah, so I think that about sums up Space Aces, Voyages in Infinite Space.
It's going on the list, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wait, it's going on the list? I'll move it then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I moved it to the wrong. This list is getting so long.
I know, but we are starting.
We are starting
on Thursday.
On Thursday, we're We are attacking something on the list on Thursday.
Yes, our good friend Couch is going to be running us through Fabula Ultima.
And technically, we've actually already started because Blades in the Dark is on the list.
Yeah, and I've already run some of that, and we've got characters
and
built.
I have built my character.
You have?
The best character that's ever been built ever.
See?
Yeah. Yeah, see?
You got Maxi Kid.
Got a little spunk and I like it.
Sorry, you got what?
You heard. But oh my god, that was bad, and I feel bad.
So that's going to be the clip I put out later on this week.
Yeah, I'm well aware. I knew, like, the minute it came out of my mouth, I knew that I was going to see this all over social media at some point.
I'm glad you said came out of your mouth.
Yeah, no, that's getting edited together. I'm aware. I'm just going to stop talking now. This is your episode. I'm just going to shut up.
Nah, carry on. You got more to talk about.
I do. One of the things I did want to talk about is something that I know you haven't really had a problem with, and that's filling combat with things other than just rolling dice and that hits.
Yeah.
Because I know you are quite big on, I'm going to call him a slag in the middle of combat and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, slag if I'm feeling lazy.
I was just picking an insult at random.
Yeah, I'm normally a bit more creative than slag.
Yes, you are. Shut you, slag.
Shut you, slag.
But it's something that I know a lot of people do struggle with at their tables, is that once they get into combat, it seems like roleplay just goes out the window. And it's not like a negative thing. I'm not saying like, oh, this is terrible and you shouldn't be doing combat that way. Like, let me just clarify that. If that's how you want to run your combat, that's how you want to run your combat, and that's absolutely fine. Personally, that's how I do it because I'm not big on roleplay, as what we've discussed many times. Yeah. For me, I like the clicky clacks and the numbers. That's why I play this game, right? But for those people that are really into their roleplay, sometimes the combats, especially if it's a big combat, like something that's been a really big build up, right? Like you had with the getting into the village, and then them killing everyone in the fucking village, right? That had quite a lot of build up to it. And if it just, boiled down to roll some dice. Yeah, you missed. Cool. Next. It can kind of kill the moment as well.
Yeah, I do get that. And don't get me wrong. I think too heavy a roleplay during combat, especially in certain systems, i.e. Pathfinder, I think you got
to find the line.
Yeah, I think it does kind of get to a point where enough's enough. I don't need to know what you're doing for every fucking spell. I don't need to know.
Like, I'm waving my arms and like I don't care about that.
Yeah, but yeah. So the article that we found was from the Alexandrian.net.
Yes.
And it was regarding adding a point in the initiative effectively for roleplay.
Yeah.
So you'd have enemy 1, enemy 2, character 1, character 2, and some point fitted in there, you would have a roleplay moment.
A little bit of roleplay. Yeah.
Which I like that idea.
I really do as well. And I personally as well, I wouldn't have it every round.
Okay, interesting.
I would maybe, purely because then it kind of becomes, it then becomes mechanical again. If it's like every round something's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I get that.
So I would maybe have it like after, like if a player got a crit, or if an NPC got a crit, or a critical fail, going both ways, right? I'd maybe slot it into that round. Because then you've got something to play off. Okay,
so something that activates on a trigger or on a series of triggers.
Yeah, exactly that. Or like, I mean, one of the examples that they give in this article is trick the PCs even with an offer of surrender, right? So let's say the barbarian hits a huge crit, or vice versa, a huge critical fail. But like he tries to like roll a intimidation check on his turn or whatever, right? The way that you could then resolve that is by inserting this triggered roleplay scene into the initiative order, where the bandits start like offering to surrender, and as soon as the players lower their guard, they strike. And just get like adding that kind of element into it, where all of the combats then become a little bit more dynamic as well. So, Square Enix have announced Final Fantasy XIV as the first official adaptation of the Final Fantasy franchise for tabletop role-playing games.
Now that's interesting. I've never played Final Fantasy XIV.
I have.
How is it?
It's all right. I started playing it because a bunch of my friends were like, "Oh yeah, we're all going to play it. Like, you should play it with us because you play MMOs." I was like, "That's right, I do play MMOs, so I'm going to be judging it pretty harshly." And it was good. Like, it was really good as an MMO. It just wasn't my kind of MMO. It was a lot slower paced than what I'm used to. So I didn't get all that far in it because of that, but it was a lot of fun when I was playing it.
Fair enough. I mean, the most recent one I played was Final Fantasy 15, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fantastic game. And then I was a huge Final Fantasy 7 nerd.
I've never played a Final Fantasy game.
They're good. Narratively, they're fantastic.
I'm going to upset a lot of people with that because I am a big gamer, but I have never... Oh, no, I'll tell a lie. I have. I played Crisis Core on the PSP.
Fair enough.
And I really enjoyed that.
Now, they are good games. There's a reason why there's so many of them.
Of course, yeah.
Obviously, Final Fantasy VII being the most popular, the most well-known.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I would say that is the one that if you say Final Fantasy, that's the one people think of. Especially like the characters for that were also in the film Advent Children, because that was all based on the Final Fantasy VII characters, wasn't it? Like
yes.
Cloud and all that lot.
Cloud, Sephiroth.
That was a good film. Yeah, I've seen the film. I really enjoyed the film, but I just never played the game.
That's one thing that Couch did when we first started playing Pathfinder. He started building all the Final Fantasy VII characters.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I built Cloud once. So,
in a similar vein, I recently built Kirito from Sword Art Online in 5e.
See, that's
a lot of fun to do.
That's a franchise I'm really unaware of. I've heard of it, obviously, but
it's really good. So the general concept is it's a VR based game, but if you die in the game, you die in real life, and you can't like log out.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'll have to check it out. But so Final Fantasy XIV RPG.
Yes. So they accidentally launched the page, and it was up for about 6 hours before they realized and took it down. But then they re-released it a few days later with the official pre-order page and all that sort of thing. So you can pre-order the starter set now. As starter sets go, it's a pretty good starter set. So in the starter set, you're going to get your player's handbook, your GM's handbook, which to get both of those in your starter set is pretty good. Normally you get like slimmed down versions of, but these are actually just the whole book. You get 3 scenarios which all tie into the Final Fantasy XIV main story from the online game, which is pretty cool. Especially for those players that have played like the MMO all the way through the storyline. I imagine that'd be even cooler for them because they'll be able to tie it into what their characters have done in the game. You get 4 pre-gen characters. So you get a warrior, a white mage, dragoon, and black mage, which are all classes from the online game. So it looks like they're actually going to be using the classes that exist in the MMO for the tabletop as well, which is pretty cool. So it also means that for those people that have played the MMO, they might be able to build their characters from the MMO into the tabletop game, which I think is a really cool tie-in.
Yeah, it looks really good. It looks quite pretty, to be honest. I'm just looking at the image of it now.
Well, that's not all you get. You also, I feel like one of those infomercials. That's not all. Order today.
Is that all, Justin?
No, you also get the rule summary, a strategy guide, encounter maps, character tokens, and ability markers. And you'll also get custom dice. So you get 60 20s where the Final Fantasy 14 logo replaces the 20, which is pretty cool. And you get 10d6. And all of that for the low price, to carry on with our late night shopping channel vibe that we're going with for some reason on this one, for the low price of $59.99, which I think in the Great British Pound is probably about like what, 40, 50 quid, something like that.
£50. £50, 99p.
Which is not too shabby.
No, I mean, if you're getting if you're getting the actual rules, because obviously normally starter sets are just very slim down versions. Like the starter set I got for Avatar, that was it's a great fucking box, by the way, but again, it's a very slim down version. So if you're getting the full rules, then it's definitely worth it. I could see Couch enjoying that.
Absolutely.
That is something that Couch would 100% get on board with.
Absolutely. It's definitely up his alleyway. I can think of a few people from around here that would absolutely love this as a game in general.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's meant to be releasing next May.
Mm-hmm. And in the same vein of things that Couch would really, really like, the studio behind the My Little Pony RPG, I'm not saying Couch would like the My Little Pony RPG, although I think he probably would. They are producing a Ghost in the Shell tabletop game. Now, Ghost in the Shell is obviously a huge manga and anime series, and it's now getting a tabletop version.
Ghost in the Shell always felt like it was unexplored from my perspective, because obviously you had the movie, which was hugely successful back in the day.
Yep.
But it was kind of an introduction to this world.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure, but at least from where I stood, we saw very little else. I do believe there was a series at one point.
Yeah,
there was
with,
a tie-in.
Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, that was the movie that got panned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the movie that got absolutely raked across. Deservedly so. It was shit. But yeah, I'm talking about the original anime movie.
Ah, right.
That came out. I think it was end of the 90s, maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, there was meant to be a series as well. There was a tie-in video game where you kind of controlled this weird tank thing, which apparently was quite good. But yeah, it just always kind of felt like the world was a bit unexplored. So I'm definitely interested in that.
So all we have right now is a coming soon picture that was released from Riverhorse Games, the company making it. That is all we've had. In terms of information, that is all we have. In terms of release dates, all we know is a tease date of 2024. We don't know when. We don't know what month. We don't know anything. That is all we know at this point. However, I'm going to be putting it on our watch list because I think that is something that we will want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. So I think it's quite nice as well to start seeing like worlds from other what's what I'm looking for here?
IPs?
Yes, coming into like getting their own games, right? Because there are so many of these worlds from like TV shows we've watched or comics we've read or films we've seen once upon a time that when we were younger, like that was half the fun of the show, right? Is we would watch the show and be like, oh my God, it'd be so cool to like be in that world and, you know, be doing that or fighting that bad guy or doing that. And like now we're getting to a point where those kids that were watching those shows and feeling like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could be in that world and do that thing? They've grown up and they make games now. So guess what? They're making games based in those worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I still struggle with licensed RPGs, and I think I always will.
Yeah,
but I think it is cool. I mean, you've got Everyday Heroes.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
Oh, what's the company? Is it? I can't remember the name of the company, but they are pumping out licensed property after licensed property, whether it's The Crow, Highlander is one that cropped up on my feed recently. It's like, ooh, a Highlander RPG.
There can be only one.
Sounds fucking awesome.
Wouldn't that devolve into the party just killing each other at the end, though?
It might do. I don't know. I haven't.
Because there can be only one.
See, I haven't read the book. I need. But I'm kind of, I think if I open that door to Everyday Heroes, it's a door that's not going to get shut.
I will never see you again. I'll be recording solo from that point on.
Yeah. So I'm kind of avoiding taking that leap.
Although it's on our list, so we have to at some point.
We do have to. But yeah, definitely interesting regarding Ghost in the Shell. So,
a bit of sad news, though, of something that is never going to release anything new again. The World of Kaladar. So, 10 years, stuff's been being produced for the World of Kaladar by Bruce Hurd. And he has announced that he will be wrapping it up. There will be no future releases for the World of Kaladar, which is... It's always sad to see something come to an end, but at the same time, it's kind of nice at the same time that it maybe will open a space, if you know what I mean.
To be honest, I mean, none of those words have resonated with me at any point. and I'm sorry, I'm trying not to sound dismissive, because obviously if the dude's been doing it for 20 years, it's 10 obviously years. 10 years. Sorry, there's obviously been some sort of following, but this is literally the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been producing what like stuff around the World of Kaladar for 10 years, as I said. And yeah, it's not something that I've ever really used in any of my games or anything like that. But I think I think he's decided to wrap it up based on a statement that he gave, because he's just not getting the backing to produce them anymore. So his last Kickstarter didn't have a lot of sales. And I think he's kind of looking at it and just going, it's just not feasible to produce anymore. No,
which is fair enough. It is a very competitive market out there, and there are so many worlds, there are so many settings. Not like if you just take a look at D&D.
Yep.
There are so many settings, and it's got to a point where there is an oversaturation of the market.
Yeah, I mean, case in point is two other stories that I've got on my list for today is two new settings for D&D, which is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. Because one of them, I think even though it's D&D, I think you'll quite like the concept. The other one is pretty cool. No, I think I said you'll like the concept, not that you'll play it or that you'll care. I said you'll like the concept. The other one is pretty cool, but I'm reserving judgment on it. So one of them is the new Planescape Adventure and Sourcebook, which is basically a sourcebook and adventure path and stuff that explores the other planes of existence. So obviously in 5e, I don't know why I'm saying obviously, because to anybody who's never played 5e, this wouldn't be obvious. But in 5e, there are multiple planes of existence. So you've got things like the elemental plane where elemental creatures come from, right? And the various different planes that span all of the different creature types and all that sort of thing. But it's something that's never really been deep dived before. It's kind of been one of those places where there's been mention of it in the odd book here and there. But it's really been like a GM just going, yeah, you are surrounded by water. You are in the water plane. Like it's just, we've been sucking it out of our asses basically. And somebody's going, hey, do you know what'd be really cool if we actually just built all of these planes as separate worlds? And that's what they've done.
Well, I mean, there's always a pull for that. There's always I mean, Pathfinder have been doing it for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when the first planes book
long time
came out for Pathfinder First Edition, but there were two.
Yeah.
There were 2 books. I bought one of them, and it was really good. You know, because it delved into the inner planes, the outer planes, the elemental planes, the transient planes, heaven, nirvana, hell, Abaddon, and all these places.
And that's exactly what this book is doing for 5e.
And obviously more recently Pathfinder brought out Rage of Elements, which touches upon that but really doesn't delve in, but it starts talking about the plane of wood and the plane of metal. And I think that I'm quite surprised that this is only happening now.
I think it has happened in the past, but it wasn't really documented very well. So there was a video game called Planescape, which is what this book is called. I think it was back in like 94 or 95 or something this video game came out, which basically went through the adventure that is going to be in this book. So the book's adventure is going to begin the same way the video game began, but you're not playing the same character from the video game. But you are going to be interacting with the same sort of NPCs and the same world that video game took place in. And it basically, the information we've got is the players are going to be awoken by the Mimian Morte, which is a floating sentient skull who is supposedly looking for someone. And they've put here that it's possibly the character from the video game that they're looking for. So the whole point of the game, the adventure path, is that you are looking for the video game player that you played back in the 90s, which I think is quite cool.
No, it's cool that there is a tie-in, especially if they're calling it exactly the same thing. Because, you know, it makes sense.
As for the new setting that I think you're going to quite like, it's called The Crooked Moon. It's a folk horror D&D 5e campaign setting.
So basically, they've gone and shoehorned the 5e rules into something that it wasn't meant to do, which happens all the fucking time.
No.
All right.
So the Crooked Moon draws from European and American folklore. And it's basically a setting, explore the setting and adventure. So it comes with an adventure path as well, which take the characters from first level up to about level 13. And you are trying to overcome an ancient fae goddess known as the Crooked Queen. So it's not shoehorning in folklore stuff with 5e mechanics. It's a full adventure path that's been built out using folklore as the source, basically.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
But it looks so good.
Well, you know, all more power to you, but, you know, if I want to play, you know, American folklore, I'll go with Old Gods of Appalachia.
There's new subclasses.
That means nothing to me. You know, that is not a selling point. I'm not exactly
it is to me.
Oh, there's new subclasses. I don't give a shit.
They're going to be adding 13 subclasses, 13 lineages, which is cool. 26 artifacts, or 26 plus fabled artifacts, more feats and more spells. So it's adding quite a lot to the game, all kind of drawing from like folklore and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, but you don't do horror.
I know, but I'm still looking forward to it. That's how much I'm looking forward to it, because I think it's going to be quite cool. Because I don't do horror. I'm not a big horror fan, but I do like folklore, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they put it into a game and stuff. Because I've done it before. I've put folklore into games. And another game that does a lot of folklore into games is something like Monster of the Week and stuff, right? Because that's all based around that sort of thing, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we need to play that again.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, That and Avatar, because they're both powered by the apocalypse.
Mm.
So something I came across the other day.
Yes.
This was on. It came up on Instagram, and it is from the account Storyteller Conclave.
Yes.
So they are at
I saw this.
st_conclave on Twitter and on Instagram. All right. And I'll read it out and then I'll tell you why I wanted to bring it up. Okay. So basically it was an image and it was try this for your next game. Have your players keep a secret. Maybe it's one of your players' birthdays or they need a moment in the sun. Have a story where all the other players know that it is a dream sequence and to act as they would normally, just accepting their fates. Then when the scene turns hard and the one player is left with a horrible situation, have them wake up and reset everything back. The other players can just roll and act as if the last hour or two didn't happen. I've done it and the reaction is amazing.
Yeah.
I have done this.
Okay.
However, mine was a lot more fucking insidious.
I don't doubt that for a second.
There was none of this, oh, maybe it's your player's birthday. No. So, in my Rise of the Rune Lords campaign, one player had his character, and his backstory for the character was quite vague. It was like, okay, I come from Ustalav, which is like the Transylvania translation. I come from Ustalav. At some point there was a tragedy in my childhood. I ran away, met a kid who I traveled with. Then there was a tragedy with him, and then here I am. Hey presto. Yeah. Do with that what you will. So I went, okay, I will.
Oh, that's so dangerous.
So I created a story where he was part of this family in Ustalav. However, before he was born, his parents couldn't conceive. So they made a deal with an entity from the plane of Leng, which is the plane of nightmares. So the deal was that they would be able to conceive, and the downside of the deal is one of their kids would become property of this denizen of Leng. All right. So they made the deal, had 2 kids. The character as a little boy, and a few years later, his little sister. So when it came round for this denizen of Leng to come and collect, the parents reneged.
Oh, I am shocked and appalled.
They set up all these sort of wardings, blah, 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 blah. So eventually the denizen of Leng came along and took the sister.
Yeah.
The sister has then grown up in the nightmare realm. She has been twisted. She has been sent insane. And all she wants is revenge because the brother she looked up to abandoned her.
Yeah.
So when they got within a certain distance of this guy's hometown, that's when I started.
Yeah.
He would go to sleep and he would have dreams. And in these dreams, he would see visions of him as a kid. However, he never saw his sister. I kind of made it so that through trauma, he'd forgotten about that side of it. But he'd hear voices. He'd hear a girl's voice singing nursery rhymes.
Oh God, that is honestly one of my worst fears. Is twins singing nursery rhymes. I genuinely have nightmares about that.
So there were about 4 of these dreams at different intervals. Then the closer they got to this city, I had the sister manifest and basically attack his best friend in the party.
Nope.
But he just woke up and he had a claw mark across his chest.
Nope.
It was a very Nightmare on Elm Street sort of scenario. So when it all came to a head, I basically told the rest of the players what the plan was. It was he was going to have another dream. However, when he thought he woke up, the
It was
dream
still
would
a dream.
the dream would continue. And I gave the players a list of things to slip into conversation.
Right.
Things like, it's your fault they died.
Yeah.
Things like, they would have been alive if it... Stuff like that. Stuff that they would just slip into conversation. And then once he realized it was a dream, the whole thing would shift and it would be a confrontation between him and his sister.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
That sounds pretty cool.
It took him about half an hour to realize, because the rest of the players started peppering in these little sort of statements.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'd have been alive if it wasn't for you. And what was that? No, nothing. And they'd carry on, and it was
that's so good.
It was a glorious moment. And I saw this the other day, and it just made me laugh because it is so innocent the way that they've phrased it. And it's like, I bastardized that a long time ago.
You're like, I did something like that, but the opposite.
There was no touchy-feely crap. It was it was harrowing. Like the whole
that's the
thing
though.
was
I mean,
harrowing.
Like, they've written it in a really sweet way, but you could read that as exactly the same as what you just said, right? Is because when they wake up, the other players just act as if nothing had happened. So you could have that dream that they're talking about, that dream sequence where things get really hard and then the player wakes up. That dream sequence could be as harrowing as you want it to be.
Oh yeah, and in my mind it would be.
Oh, absolutely.
Give it in my hands, I would twist it. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was... It just made me laugh when I saw it.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea. And I think done well, it could be a really cool way to give a player a little bit extra without like eating story time, if that makes sense. Like, story time is probably the wrong word, but because it's like a dream sequence, it's not like taking people away from the narrative that already exists for this like side story, because it's a dream sequence. I quite like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it is a good mechanic to use. To be honest, when I thought of it, at no point did I think, "Oh, let's give the player the spotlight." It was like, "No, I want to fuck with him."
Fuck that guy. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
You give me a half-assed backstory and let me fill in the fucking blanks.
Those blanks are going to be brutal.
It's like the other player who said he had a character who had amnesia. It's like, I'm going to fuck with you as well.
Well, so speaking of that, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like I've seen it quite a few times on like Instagram and YouTube shorts and stuff like that, of like people saying about like a really cool concept for a campaign would be everyone starting with blank character sheets, and they've all just like woken up, like washed up on a shore or something, and they've all got amnesia, so they don't know anything about their characters. And like as they explore the world and do stuff, like they'll start to figure out what their stats are and what class they are, because one of them might like just like put his hands out to do something and a fireball flies out of his hands, like, oh shit, I can cast fireball, like stuff like that, right?
the beginning to Strange Aeons, which is like a Cthulhian horror adventure path, they do start like that, but not with the blank character sheets. You do start with a character sheet, but it's your character's awake in a mental asylum, and you've got no memories of who you are, and you don't really get those memories until like book 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And you still never really recover the memories. You just investigate who you are and why you are placed in that asylum to begin with.
Yeah, so I quite like that as a concept of just like discovering your character as you go. I think it could be a really interesting way to run like a one-shot where there's like pre-gen characters. Is you dish out the character sheets to the players, but like they don't know what character they've got, and they have to like figure out as they go.
Yeah, I think it would work a bit better as a one shot.
Yeah,
because I think once the character sheet is filled in,
then they've just got a character.
Yeah, the thread tying them to that mystery is gone.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just do it with the character sheets, in full view, and just say this is the mystery, it kind of it shifts the focus
Yeah.
They focus on the mystery itself, as
Rather
opposed to
than
the mechanics of it.
The mystery of them, yeah.
So yeah, I think it can work. I'd be hesitant to do the character sheet thing because I just have to remember so much fucking shit, and I can't be fucked.
There was one other thing that I saw that was quite funny on the old social medias. I can't remember for the life of me where I saw it, but it was a video. But it was like a video of a guy reading like a Reddit post or something. So I don't really know, where it comes from originally. But it was just this idea of like the party walking into a tavern, and then the guy behind the bar in the tavern just pulling out this huge tome, going, species and ages, as he flips through this book of like all of the legal drinking ages for all of the different species that exist.
Oh, that's fun. That'd be a good concept.
And just like him being so fed up of having to check like all of these species that exist, especially like as every single book that comes out for these systems seems to add like another 8 races that just have appeared in the world.
No, I do actually like that. That's quite funny.
So yeah, that was quite a funny one that I will probably implement at some point in one of my campaigns.
Well, I'm 55 years old, but you're a dwarf. You're a child.
Yeah, you're a dwarf. You're 12.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll be good.
All right.
Or the opposite of that would be, I'm a dwarf. Oh, good point. Yeah, no, you're 5, but you're a dwarf. That's fine. You can have an ale.
Right. So, shall we take a seat on the couch?
I think we should.
Right. I only got the one question from me. I don't know if anyone's got in touch with you.
No, I've not got any.
Nobody likes you anymore. It's kind of weird.
I know. I'm feeling a bit left out.
Yeah. So, this is from Couch of the Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
From Watch Out for That Tree. I had a feeling you'd like that one.
Oh, that's one of my favourite films.
That is probably the least surprising thing I've ever heard you say.
It's so stupid.
But
that's what makes it amazing.
I do miss I do miss that level of stupidity in movies.
Yeah, from like the 90s like spoof films. They were so good.
They stopped being good in the 90s. I'm talking about like the 70s where you've got Naked Gun and...
Oh, dude, Naked Gun was so good. Surely you can't be serious. I'm very serious. Don't call me Shirley.
I mean, they were just amazing. I mean...
they were... An Airplane. That was a good one as well.
Airplane.
Yeah.
Top Secret.
Yeah. Hot Shots.
Hot Shots 1 and 2.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Correct title. Thank you very much.
And then I think the last probably good one was probably Scary Movie.
Yeah. And then Scary Movie went a bit off the rails. And I think that honestly, I think Scary Movie kind of killed the spoof genre. Because they went a bit off the rails with it. And I think they kind of fucked it up for everyone.
I think Scary Movie still kind of maintained, because I've seen like Scary Movie 4 and 5, and it's still got a similar vein of humor, but it's when they started coming out with fucking Epic Movie.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. That just kind of when it kind of became more about, oh, let's make sure people know we're parodying this thing, as opposed to let's try and be funny.
Parodying it. Yeah. Yeah, the parody became almost the joke itself rather than just making a joke.
Yeah, it was, okay, look, this is what we're doing now. Now we're parodying American Idol. And it was just became so fucking on the nose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean...
Anyway.
I need to get back to watching. I'm just updating my watch list.
We digress.
I'm going to be watching Naked Gun the moment we stop recording.
It's a good film.
It's an amazing fucking film. Anyway.
Couch's question
is, would you cross systems? Take, for example, the conversation you had about the city building games that would help players in your normal systems. So would you use Pathfinder for a main game, then use another system to do a mini game? What ones do you think would work well?
Interesting.
What are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
I honestly don't know. I think the hard thing would be finding a reason to use a different system rather than just the system that you're currently playing in. I think like for something like the dream sequences and stuff that we were just talking about, it could be fun to just throw in something that's very rules light or very like theater of mind. Like for example, your horrible horror based dream sequence that this player had, and using something like Delta Green, which is built for that kind of horror mechanic, right? But even then, it means that you're going to have to build their character sheets into this other system for that to work. And it's just, it could end up being more work than it's worth.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I would do it, and I have tried to do it recently. When the players in my homebrew were doing a heist, I tried to kind of shoehorn in some Blades in the Dark mechanics.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work, but it wasn't too bad. I just don't think it's something that I would do again, or I would definitely probably put a lot more thought into doing.
Into how, yeah.
I think if you find something in the system that you're running which has a void, then I think it's great to pick up from other systems. The only one that's kind of springing to mind now is in, for example, Pathfinder, there isn't a really solid mass combat mechanic. There isn't really a armies going to war mechanic which fits.
Yeah.
I think in Kingmaker they have done it. They have kind of done a version of it. But I don't think it would be as good as something as, let's say, for example, Warhammer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be opposed to my players going to a place where they've got to basically become generals of an army.
Yeah. And then essentially playing a game of Warhammer.
Just importing Warhammer into the system. I would obviously have to know more about playing fucking Warhammer because I've got zero clue whatsoever. But I think that's something that could work. I think wherever you've got a void, wherever you've got a gap
I think
in the system.
It's also for like any of those like tavern-based games as well. So like if a player's going, or if like the parties, or like when you went to a casino in your party, right? You would then be able to like actually just insert some real casino games into that if they want to sit down and play some blackjack, for example. You could sit down and play some blackjack.
I avoided doing that for one reason.
See other players get bored?
No. I made the mistake playing Rune Lords of the players going to a casino. The entirety of the table, or should I say 90% of the table, including myself at the time, were casino workers.
Yeah.
So it became a point of the entire session was me basically having to make up fucking rules for blackjack and roulette on the fly because they were more fucking invested in gambling as they were in the actual fucking game. So this time around, we did not do that.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson and went, yes, you're in a casino. What games are there? There's this game, that game, and the other. Can we play? Roll a d20. If you get higher than 11, you've got good luck and you get money. Lower than 11, you lose. It's like, I am not fucking giving you casino games to play because I've got a campaign to get on with.
I see. Yeah, I would only put in games that I already like know the rules to very well. And I've spent a lot of time in casinos. I've never worked in one, but I have spent a lot of time in them. So I do know my way around several of the tables. But yeah, I think, that's the only kind of thing I could think of is inserting like real life mini games, into like real life games as like a mini game type element of a game. So like you say, if like they're going to war, they go into this like general mode where they then play some kind of tabletop war game like Warhammer or one of the other many systems that exist for similar type of war games. So I think that's probably the only reason where it is something that, as you say, the rules of your system don't cover. It might be worth plugging in some kind of external game. But off the top of my head, I've never run into that situation where I've been like, do you know what would work really well here? Playing a game of Warhammer.
Well, I mean, I did run into that situation, and that was in Skulls and Shackles. Because the ship-to-ship combat was so notoriously fucking bad. In Pathfinder, it was like, I need another system.
Yeah.
I need to either create a system, I need to find a system, and I never did because the campaign kind of fizzled out. Luckily, because I am thinking of resurrecting that campaign, but converted to 2nd edition.
Yeah.
There is a third-party supplement called Smoke and Sail.
Nice.
Which is taking Pathfinder 2nd edition rules and creating this really comprehensive ship management system.
Okay.
And I've been reading it. It's like fucking good. So if anybody wants that, it's on Pathfinder Infinite. It's great.
That sounds pretty good.
So yeah, I would use a system for something that my system of choice didn't cover.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see the benefit to it. I don't think I've come across that situation yet myself. And there's not really been any time where I've been like, there's a really big hole here that I need to plug somehow.
Yeah, I think
personally,
I think you probably will. I think the more you GM, you will kind of come up against.
Absolutely, I know I'm gonna. It's just
you'll come up against these walls where it's like, this is what I want to do.
I can't fucking do it.
Shit. And you will kind of come up with these things where you kind of have to improvise a lot, and you kind of have to borrow from other systems. So I think the more you GM, the more you'll kind of get to that point.
Yeah, and it's going to happen.
I've come across it a few times. Sometimes I've done it using sort of subsystems of Pathfinder, which, had I have given it a bit more thought, I could have done something a bit more comprehensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm sure I'll carry on coming up with coming into these situations going forward. But yeah, the Warhammer battle one.
That could work quite well, but
yeah,
you would have to.
I'm going to look into that.
Unfortunately, the issue you're going to have with that is playing Warhammer without the minis is nigh on impossible.
I'm going to look into it. Because it actually does touch on something that I've been kind of toying with.
I mean, if you need help with the rules, myself or Couch would probably be better because he knows them a lot. Or they change the rules all the time, but he's more versed with them than I am. But I do play a little bit of Warhammer, so I might be able to help you out.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that because again, I've got a concept of something rattling around the brain. Now, whether that'll come out in my homebrew currently, or whether it's something to use in the future, but maybe using something like Warhammer, or what's the other one? Malifaux,
yeah.
Malifaux, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think Warhammer would suit better for just what players in like TTRPGs are used to, because it's still dice based. Malifaux being card based, it would be, because then you'd have to whip out a deck of cards as well for this one element, and I think that would get a little bit much. Whereas the Warhammer rules, they are like, until you start getting into like the the real in-depth things of like, what does this spell do, what does that spell do, etc., which you'd probably change for what you're doing to make it Pathfinder spells instead, right?
Yeah.
So that bit wouldn't really be relevant, but the actual way the mechanics of the combat work are very intuitive to tabletop role playing. So essentially, you roll your attack, you have to get over a target number to hit, then you have to get over a target number to damage, then they get to roll to defend that damage. That's basically it. And then movement and stuff is also baked into the turn order. So it has a very similar structure to a tabletop role-playing game, in that there is a turn order, like things happen in a set way. It's broken down in those ways. There's roles to determine outcomes and stuff like that. So I feel like Warhammer would probably be the easiest to slot in because it's not going to be so far removed from what you're already doing.
Yeah.
That it would probably slot in quite well, actually. So yeah, that one probably would work quite well thinking about it.
Well, I'll give it some thought.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we've got time for tonight.
Indeed.
So thanks, Couch, for sending in another great question. Keeps us busy and out of trouble.
Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, but thanks to you for spending some time with me this evening.
You're very welcome.
And most importantly, thanks to everyone listening. So, Justin, do you want to tell people where they can find you on Tinterwebs?
Yes. So all of you lovely individuals can find me at Justin Accurate TV. Jesus, I really can't speak today. Justin Accurate TV. I'm live over on Twitch quite often at the moment. I probably will be live later this evening once this goes out. Unless, of course, you're listening on a different day, in which case, check. I might be live, I might not. You'll have to find out when you get there. But yeah, and obviously on our Facebook page.
Yeah, as for me, you can also find me on our Facebook page. I'm also at Natural Juan on Instagram and Mastodon. I have recently just been given an invite to Blue Sky. So I've created a at Too Legit to Crit account on there. I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. It just looks like Twitter to me.
X.
Oh, shut up. Nobody gives a shit anymore. All right, and with that, thank you once again to everybody listening. If you like what you hear, don't forget to like, to share with your friends. Hopefully we can reach more of you and kind of grow this community that we are loving so much.
Yeah.
So that's about it from us. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, guys.